Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30, so welcome to the Alpharetta City Council meeting and public hearing for November 18th, 2024. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Before we get started, I just want to note for anyone that may be here for two of our public hearing items that have been removed from tonight's agenda. First one was public hearing item Z-24-14/V-24-22 Pinnacle BG LLC, Karen Drive. The applicant has withdrawn their application, and this item will not be considered during tonight's meeting. The other is public hearing item MP-24-09/CU-24-12, Alpharetta Hotel Holdings LLC, Hybrid Hotel. That applicant has requested a deferral, and the item will not be considered during tonight's meeting as well. That being done, I'll go ahead and call roll, and we do have all members of council present and accounted for this evening. And as always, we begin our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're willing and able, please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item up on tonight's agenda will be the proclamation for National Native American Heritage Month. I believe we have Christian Dane, the program manager from the Georgia Council on American Indian Concerns, that will receive this proclamation this evening. Mr. Dane, if you'll meet me down front. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say before I do the proclamation?
On behalf of the Georgia Council on American Indian Concerns, it's my honor to receive this. Thank you to Mayor Gilvin, the City Council, and the City of Alpharetta for this proclamation, and I look forward to sharing it with the members of our council immediately.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I sure would. Thank you. The Daughters of the American Revolution, we're very proud to support Native American Heritage Month. The Daughters support Native Americans through schools and scholarships. They are Balcom College in Muskogee, Oklahoma. The school was founded in 1880 as an Indian university by Almond C. Balcom, and today is a four-year liberal arts college. The Chimmuwa Indian School in Salem, Oregon. This is a high school, and it was founded in 1880, and it serves 300 to 400 students a year. It is an off-reservation boarding school. We offer 3 American Indian scholarships. The American Indian Scholarship requires a 3.25 GPA. It's a $4,000 scholarship. The Francis Crawford Marvin American Indian Scholarship requires a 3.5 GPA, and the scholarship amount varies according to the investments of the endowment. There's another one, the Ann Treverton Memorial Scholarship is based, of course, on the return of the endowment, and it is administered by William and Mary College. And finally, we support the Indian Youth of America Summer Camp. It is sponsored by the American Youth of America and is based in Sioux City, Iowa. It is our pleasure, the Patriots of Liberty chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, to request this proclamation. And we thank the mayor and the city council for granting the request and presenting it to the Georgia Council on American Indian Concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that being done, I will go ahead and read this proclamation by the Mayor and the Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, National Native American Heritage Month. Whereas across the nation, the month of November is recognized as National Native American Heritage Month and is a time to celebrate the rich culture, traditions, and stories of Native American communities. And whereas our history and culture were significantly influenced by the contributions that Native Americans made towards establishing and growing the United States. This month, we should honor the achievements, sacrifices, and cultural legacy of the original inhabitants of what is now the United States and their descendants. And whereas the U.S. Department of Indian Affairs selected the theme of weaving together our past, present, and future for the 2024 National Native American Heritage Month. And whereas in 2009, Congress passed a joint resolution declaring the Friday immediately following Thanksgiving Day each year as Native American Heritage Day. This year, Native American Heritage Day will be observed nationally on Friday, November 29th, 2024. Whereas within the 2009 congressional resolution, Congress resolved that Native American Indians have made essential contributions to the world, such as cultivating and harvesting corn and sweet potatoes. Congress further reiterated that Native American Indian provided assistance to European visitors and aided George Washington and his troops during the winter of 1777 and 1778. Further, some of this nation's constitutional liberties, the freedom of speech and governmental powers, were founded upon principles found within the political systems of Native American Indians. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, do hereby recognize the month of November as National Native American Heritage Month in the City of Alpharetta. So proclaimed, this 18th day of November 2024 by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next item up on our agenda is the consent agenda. And before we get started on that, I'd just like to remove one of the items that's on your printed agenda, if you're following out there. This is the Global Settlement Agreement, Casey Bennett and the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. We have not actually received that document, so I'd like to pull that item for a future agenda. That being said, the other three items are the City Council meeting minutes from the meeting of November 4th, 2024. The financial management report for the month ending September 30th, 2024. The sewer and temporary construction easements for 242 Milton Avenue. Is there anyone on our council that would like to remove anything else from the consent agenda? Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on the consent agenda?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
If there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on the consent agenda, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Motion to approve items A, B, and C of the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Councilman Hypes, second by Councilman Will, to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So the next portion of tonight's meeting will be the public hearing portion. First, I'd like to turn over the floor to Ms. Molly Eswine so she can make the announcement of the public hearing procedures.
An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the mayor before addressing the city council. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The council will allow proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application. Opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are accepted first from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentation, the mayor will allow the applicant to offer rebuttal if any time is remaining in the original allotted 10 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Eswine. As I mentioned earlier, the first item that was published on the agenda has been withdrawn, so we won't be hearing that item this evening. So the first item that will be discussed in the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting is CLUP-24-03/MP-24-06/Z-24-11/V-24-18. TPG, Brookside Master Plan Pod B. Mr. Woodman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item before you is a request from the Providence Group. It's a master plan amendment, comprehensive land use plan amendment, rezoning, and variance to allow for a redevelopment of a two-story, 105,000 square foot Class B office building with 160 for-sale townhouse-style condominium units. And that property is 9.9 acres, and it is located in the Brookside Master Plan. Applicant is asking for a master plan amendment to add dwelling for sale attached to the Brookside Master Plan Pod B. Comprehensive land use plan amendment is requested from corporate office to high-density residential in a rezoning from O&I office institutional to R10M. And then there are also variances, including an increase to the building height, reduction of setbacks, reduction of an undisturbed buffer, and to allow some required parking to be uncovered. Have the location map on the overhead. This property is located at 3750 Brookside Parkway. This is the office building. As you may recall, High Res Studios used to be located in this office building. This is also located in the Brookside Small Area Plan. That small area plan was adopted shortly after the 2040 Comprehensive Plan in response to community feedback that we had looking at this area for redevelopment. The Brookside Master Plan was approved in 1997. It was approved as an office park with retail nodes up along Old Milton Parkway. This is the Brookside Master Plan, also the subject of the Small Area Plan. As I mentioned in that 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the community came back and said that we needed to look at the redevelopment opportunities east of 400 along Old Milton Parkway, and in dealing with the high vacancy rates that we were seeing within this particular office park. I believe the vacancy rate in this office park is closer to 33%, whereas citywide we're about 23%. So that small area plan, which is this is the framework plan from the small area plan that was eventually adopted in 2022. The plan envisions reimagining this area as a walkable, connected environment. We did not make land use recommendations within this particular plan, so that this request does request a change to the future land use from corporate office to allow for the residential use. As I mentioned, there are some variances with the applicant's request. The zoning that they're requesting, R10M, has a max height of 35 feet, which would allow 3 stories. The applicant is asking for a variance to allow 3 stories and 47 feet. They have they have 2 different product types that are proposed within the development, and this is their site plan. This product type, there's a product type, as you see here and here, that is 3-story built over a partially buried basement. And then this product type is 3-story on a slab. So there is quite a bit of topography on this property. This site falls off from Old Milton to this portion of the property about 20 feet. And then the site continues to fall off at Brookside as well. There's also setback reductions, both along Old Milton Parkway. The setback reduction is from 65 to 50 feet along Old Milton Parkway. The purpose of that setback is to allow them to work with the grade and bury the product type that would have the partially buried basement. And then they're also asking for a setback variance along Brookside. The Brookside small area plan specifically calls for a reduced setback along Brookside so that we can pull units up to the sidewalk along Brookside Parkway. Because they're working within a non-residential environment, basically an office park with commercial nodes up along Old Milton Parkway, adding residential would require buffers between the developments, so the applicant is asking for buffer reductions on the east and west side of the development. They are proposing to provide buffers, just a reduced buffer, minimum 15 feet on the east side, and then there'll be a little bit larger buffer on the west side. And then our code does require the 2 parking spaces be either enclosed in a garage or covered in a carport. The product type that the applicant proposes has 1 garage space. So the other required parking space would be uncovered in the driveway. So there is a variance request for that. There was a previous parking reduction variance. That variance has been removed. The applicant does comply with parking on this plan. So as you can see, this is the site plan. This shows the 160 for-sale townhouse-style condominium units. So this is a condominium unit. I'll let the applicant really discuss this product type because it's unique to what they've done at other locations in the city, at the Maxwell, at the Atlee, and I believe at Echo Park near North Point. They are showing continued access to this site from a shared driveway on Old Milton Parkway, and then with a modified driveway location along Brookside Parkway. There are 14 buildings. As I mentioned, these are 3-story buildings. Some are over a basement and some are directly on a slab. Our code does require, when you have 2 street frontages, such as this site, that 1 street frontage would be buffered. So the intent of the small area plan was to address Brookside and not Old Milton Parkway. So this side of the development will be completely buffered. The existing street trees, we've confirmed with GDOT's plan that the existing street trees do remain on this plan. So those will remain, and behind the sidewalk, they will do a 20-foot planted buffer. As part of the small area plan, it also called for a green pedestrian connection on this property. The plan did show it on the east side of the property, but it was really irrelevant whether it was on the east side through the middle of the development or on the west side. And so that's what you see along the west side of the property. There is an open stormwater pond in this location. The applicant is proposing to place that stormwater pond underground. And then creating kind of a park-like setting with pedestrian access from Old Milton to Brookside through this park, and this would be for public access. In addition to this area here on the west side of the property, they are proposing a pool and clubhouse on this side on the east side of the property. And then you see some green spaces, these muses, throughout the development. And a small mail kiosk is here at the front of the development from Brookside. The UDC requires 374 parking spaces for this development, and they show 374 parking spaces. There are 160 spaces in garages, 160 spaces on driveways, and 54 guest spaces throughout the development. So they've got on-street parking throughout the development here. These are the applicant's renderings. They're depicting two different colors of brick on the exterior, as well as board and batten and siding. And then looking at the review criteria, well, before I do that, let me just show you the other rendering of the building. There were some buildings along Brookside that had the side of the building facing Brookside. The applicant, of course, it's preferred that the building would be oriented to Brookside. The applicant, we did discuss with the applicant the possibility of maybe swapping this grouping of buildings so that this building would address the street. That doesn't work with the product type here. This product type right here is the product that would have the basement, 3 stories over basement, and it's partially buried into the topography of the property. So it doesn't work to swap these. But to address these units that have their side elevation facing the street, the applicant did show this elevation where they have placed doors to address the street, and there would be a sidewalk connection so that is oriented, the side of the building is oriented to the street. Of course, looking at the review criteria for the comprehensive land use plan amendment, master plan amendment, rezoning, and variances, we do see that the applicant is consistent with what is identified in the comprehensive plan as it relates to the Brookside area. This is addressing the need to repurpose these suburban office parks that have high vacancy rates. The applicant is proposing to add residential here to bring people closer to where they work. We noted that this also would result in a reduction in vehicular trips to the site, the residential use as opposed to the office use at full occupancy, of course, would represent a 57% decrease in AM trips and 47% decrease in PM trips. Of course, we noted the opportunity to reposition the Brookside Office Park, as is recommended in the small area plan. We do believe that the site has some extraordinary conditions that justify the requested variances. Notably, the topography of the site is supportive of the variances to reduce setbacks. The Brookside master plan already allows up to 8-story, actually, I take that back. I believe it was 6 stories in this particular pod. So the variance request to allow up to 47 feet is still well below the height that's allowed in the master plan. And then the applicant has received variances to allow uncovered parking at other locations that have the same similar product type, that the townhome style condominiums, and that was approved at Echo Park. The applicant provided a citizen participation plan. They indicated that no public comments were received. Same thing at the community zoning information meeting on October 9th, no public comments. And then this request was shown to Planning Commission on November 7th. There were no public comments at that meeting. Planning Commission recommended approval of the applicant's request and denial of the parking variance to reduce parking. After the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant adjusted the site plan, found 4 additional parking spaces, and withdrew the variance request to reduce parking. So they no longer need that variance request. And so the recommendation in the staff report is to approve the applicant's request, subject to 17 conditions. I will note that when the applicant updated the site plan to add all the required parking, we did need to update the site plan date in several conditions. So if this item is approved this evening, I would change the site plan date on conditions 1, 7, 8, 10, 13, and 14, and that date should change to 11/12/24. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Woodman? Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Woodman, could you explain, you made a comment regarding the 6 stories. Can you explain that a little bit more for me?
So I was discussing the variance request related to the height. So the zoning allows 35 feet. They're asking for a variance to allow 3-story and 47 feet. And when we're looking at that, the master plan had already allowed for a non-residential use. So if an office building was developed on this property, the master plan would have allowed up to 6-story height.
So this is a residential.
This is a residential
So
development, which is why we're
Why wouldn't we hold them to the height of a residential building?
I mean, we think that there's a justification based on the topography. There are some concerns with this property because of the topography. We did not feel that that was going to be have a negative impact. So the 47 feet you will not see any of the development from Old Milton Parkway at all. But the way that we will measure the height on these units, say right here, will be from where we can see the building from the road, basically from Brookside Parkway.
The UDC calls for 35 feet on
The
residential.
UDC for this zoning is 35 feet,
And
which would allow a
this is approved to
3-story.
be 47 feet.
Yeah, this will be
Okay.
47 because of the 3-story that will be over a partial basement. Part of the basement will be in the ground. It'll be partially out of the ground.
Early on in your presentation, you talked about the Brookside Framework Plan, which I kind of recall staff working on that. And I'm paraphrasing, so correct me if I misstate this. You said there was no, I guess, uses defined,
Land use recommendations?
land use recommendations in this particular pod, correct? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so in this small area plan, we did not say you should change the future land use, you should add these uses. What we said is this is a struggling suburban office park. We believe that the office park should be repurposed, should be repositioned, and part of that is adding amenities. Amenities could be adding additional retail or restaurant. It could be adding residential closer to office. In this particular case, the applicant is requesting residential use.
So, following up with that question, are we setting a precedent if we approve this as far as what the rest of this pod could look like in the future, as far as without having amendments to the master plan for this pod, the multi-use and limiting what types of uses within this pod? I mean, you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, and
since we don't have a guide right now are we creating a precedent that could potentially, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but could potentially make this an entire residential area?
I don't think that we would be setting a precedent that the entire area could become residential. I think what we're saying is we have a plan that says that we need to do something to reposition these office parks that are struggling. And this is one way of doing that. There's multiple ways. Adding residential is one way. We look at each request based on its own merits, each request that comes to us. So I don't think that by just approving This particular request here, it opens it up to residential for everywhere. I do think that we will see other residential requests at office parks that are having issues with vacancy. We've got 20 million square feet of office. This is, removing 100,000 square feet is not going to put a big, take a big chunk out of the office that we have in the city. But if it helps benefit this existing office park so that the other office is successful, that's what we're trying to do.
And one more question. You made reference to reducing setbacks and the buffers on the east and west side of the proposed development. Why would we do that? Why would we agree to that?
So with regard to the setbacks, I think, first of all, the small area plan talked about a lesser setback along Brookside Parkway. So it talked about a 20-foot setback. That's part of that plan. So what they're asking for
But
is
without
25.
without a plan for the area. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, so that setback was kind of, they're trying to do what the plan was asking for. Now, the setback reduction along Old Milton Parkway, that is solely has to do with the type of product that they're trying to accomplish on this property, and they're trying to work with the grade of the property and bury that product type that sits on a basement.
would not approving the buffers and the setbacks basically cause any developer to reduce the number of residential units that could be built in that?
So the applicant provided a plan meeting the setback up on Old Milton Parkway, the 65-foot setback, and they were able to accommodate the same number of units. So they showed us, they made the argument, right now, from Old Milton to the existing parking lot in front of the office building, it falls about 20 feet here. So their idea is they'll bring in some additional dirt, partially bury these basements on this product type here, and then it'll allow them to flatten this area out a little bit more so that they can get that 20-foot buffer that is required by our code. Right now, they would be planting the 20-foot buffer on a slope, pretty substantial slope. So that's the purpose of that setback variance. The undisturbed buffer variance, they're trying to create a mixed-use environment out of a single environment that you have here today. This is a non-residential environment today. So they're coming in and adding, and we've seen this where we have residential kind of introduced into a non-residential area. And so we are supportive of the buffer variances because we are trying to create more of a mixed-use environment in this location. So we're not in that type of environment, things don't need that separation, we believe. We really want to connect uses. We think that some kind of separation is necessary between residential and non-residential.
I get the buffers, the setbacks. I could be sold on. I'm asking these questions because I'm trying to think of the future of that whole area there along Old Milton. And so this is an important decision.
Mm-hmm.
We're setting somewhat of a precedent if we approve this tonight, both in density and the setbacks and the buffers reductions. And I understand what you're saying. It's going to be mixed use, so we don't really need as much of a setback that's required. But at the same time, from an aesthetically pleasing standpoint along Old Milton Parkway in that area, there's a lot of residential communities around there. So the last thing I want to do is create more of a commercial-looking mixed-use development that's visually close to the sidewalk and the roadway. So that's why I was asking you the questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman? Thanks, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards in favor?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come speak in favor of the project? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Oh, no, I think the applicant was standing up, Mr. Mayor.
Pardon?
The applicant's representative was standing up to come speak in favor.
I know. I just had gotten the in favor and opposite, but I got out of order. If the applicant would like to come forward, please do so.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Alex Brock with Smith Gambrell Russell.
Sir, if you wouldn't mind to press the right button on the microphone base. Oh, green light. And if you
All right, can everybody hear me now?
and if you just don't mind, I think you were getting there, but your name and address for the record, please.
That's fine. Again, my name is Alex Brock with Smith Gambrell Russell. Office address is 1105 West Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia. Land use attorney here on behalf of the Providence Group, and with me tonight I have members of Providence Group, including Warren Jolly, who will speak upon the vision for the development. I think Mr. Woodman gave a very good overview of our request tonight, so I'll briefly touch on just a few issues just to reiterate this plan. But this is, as Mr. Woodman stated, an aging suburban office building. It's 100% vacant. What we are proposing is the redevelopment of the office building for 160 townhome units. This proposal is in line with the city's long-term goals for the area and the long-term plans that the city has set forth. Namely, in the Horizon 2040 comprehensive plan, it calls for the redevelopment of suburban office buildings east of 400. The Brookside Small Area Plan, as Mr. Woodman touched upon, was adopted in 2022 and calls for the repositioning of the aging suburban office park for more walkable, connected environment. We are meeting a number of goals of the Brookside Small Area Plan, including connections, as we showed on the site plan. I don't know if we have. I don't know if it's connected or not. Oh, there we go. We are proposing a connection along the east side of the development for public pedestrian connectivity from Old Milton Parkway down to Brookside Parkway with a traffic calming crosswalk along Brookside Parkway to connect to the trail system within the Brookside Small Area Plan. We are also facilitating pedestrian connectivity with the adjacent parcels as well. Our proposed use is commensurate with what is existing in the area today, namely the restaurant and commercial to the east, as well as the existing office to the south. And as I promised, I'll keep my presentation brief, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Jolly at this point to go through the development itself.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jolly, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor, Mr. and members of the council. Warren Jolly with the Providence Group. As you mentioned, the variances that we talked about earlier, one of them that we talked about facing Old Milton was the building was going to be at the toe of the slope. And so basically, like Michael explained, the plantings would be down the slope. So what we did, we moved the building into the slope a little bit, and it flattened out that area, that grade change. So the plantings that are in the buffer requirement would be planted at a higher elevation and actually be more visible, effective to the development. So we never really didn't get any more units. We got the same amount of units. The other variances that we were talking about were meeting the comp plan and moving them closer to the street. As Michael also mentioned, we did look at the buildings originally facing out to Brookside Parkway, but when we graded the site, which we've been working with staff for several months. So we come up with a site plan, and when we got the staff comments, everybody wanted it oriented, then we graded the site with our engineer to make sure what we develop meets the site plan, so you guys approve a plan that can be built. When we did that, we realized there's 20 feet of grade change from the edge of that building down to Brookside Parkway. And as he mentioned, the units that flipping are buried. So basically, we really couldn't do it. So that's why we came up with the side or elevation orientation of making that side look really neat, and the front doors, and having some porches to the side of that unit. Other than that, on the plans, we worked very hard with staff on the architectural plans. As you mentioned, the unit in the middle is the one that basically meets that 47 feet, and that's measuring from the rear of that unit to average plane of the back. So that's full 4 stories with average plane. By code, we would get to blend the front and the back, so that would be the worst case scenario. The 35 feet is what the standard building code is for a residential house. So these are actually complicated units, they're condos, so the height requirement we didn't really see as an issue. As Michael mentioned, we built these before at we built them at Maxwell. We also built them at Palisades and Milton Park as you come in. If you look at those units that were on the right across from Manley Apartments, they had a front door, and if you looked at the front door, you saw behind it was another door, so there's actually 2. So each of these units that you see, there are 2 units in each of these stacks, and they look like high-end townhomes, very nice architecture. And this is kind of how they work. If you look at the gray unit on the bottom left, that's a 1-car garage. At the top on the left is a 1-car garage, a bedroom, and then the gray is below on the bottom left is the second level of that unit, which is a bedroom, a living, and the kitchen level with a nice deck. And you'll see the front door of that unit comes off that porch. Well, the unit, the blue and orange garages, their front door, you come in the front stoop and go up a level. And as you mentioned, you can see the level that the top right screen is the living level of that, and then the bottom right is the 3rd floor or attic version of that. So some of them have 3 levels with a basement, some are 2 levels with an attic in the basement. And those are the ones that are buried, that are on the site plan that we have majority of that face that mews. The slab units are this elevation done by Lassard, the Washington, D.C., and these are slab units. These are back-to-back townhomes, and they work a little different. They each have their own front door, and they all have a 1-car garage, but this has a unit to the front and unit to the back. We built this also in other jurisdictions, and just from a history standpoint, we probably built the back-to-back or the stack units over 1,000 of those in Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, also here in Alpharetta. So the price range, one of the things that everybody's trying to do today, they're very complicated. They're a little smaller units, but we're trying to get some inventory in the 4s to the 5s, and that's what these would be priced at when we think, 18 months when we get ready to start building them. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Or we go ahead and have advocates for the,
Anyone else to speak in favor, the time would be now to come up, yes.
okay, thank you. I just got a little ahead of myself.
My apologies, I
Ms.
jumped the
Shapiro, do we
gun.
have any public comment?
We do not,
Support
Mr.
of
Mayor.
this item.
No comment cards in favor.
However, if there's anyone who would like to come forward and speak in favor of the applicant, now's your chance to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do we have any public comment cards in opposition?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Once again, however, if you'd like to come speak in opposition of the application, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Yes, I've got a list. Molly tells me the order I'm supposed to go through this. You're not on the list. Well, for those of you who aren't familiar, we've changed our procedures as she was outlining earlier. And so now we have to allow 10 minutes of comment in favor, including the applicant, and 10 minutes for anyone who's in opposition. And so it is difficult for Ms. Eswine to keep up the 10 minutes if we go back to the questions first nowadays. So that's why we were a little shuffled there. So yes, anyone have any questions for the applicant at this point? Councilman Hipes.
Mr. Jolly, I got a question for you. I was looking at the levels of the floors and the parking. The Atlee, is that one of y'all's products?
Yes, sir.
And anybody listening in, that's Haynes Bridge Road across from the Quick Trip.
Right.
Is that the same parking arrangement at the Atlee as what you have here, where you pull into a garage and there's a staircase that takes you to a particular level that's where your living space is, or is that different?
No, the Atlee was a totally different product. None of these product units are built in Atlee. There's some built in Maxwell,
Okay.
but none built in Atlee.
But so the parking arrangement that you described here, where you come in and then you access your unit, that's completely different?
What do you mean park? You have a one-car garage and one in the driveway. There are a few of those at Atlee from parking, but as far as the way they're oriented, they're different floor plans.
Okay. I had some questions in follow-up to what you learned over at Atlee, but if they're different products, I have no questions on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we have built over 1,000 of those type of products.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Councilman Will.
Mr. Jolly, I have a question for you. And part of this is educational on my behalf, but I've heard the terms going back and forth tonight between condominium, townhome, and townhome-style condominium. What are we building?
Yeah, so by ownership, they're condominiums, but they look like townhomes.
Okay.
And so condominium sometimes is not a good word, especially some insurance and ownership.
And it says townhome, it says condominiums in our.
But they look
request
like
here.
high-end townhomes, so, and they can step like townhomes. So they're not like a condominium one level. And so what's good about them, you can build them in grades and make transitions. But by ownership, they're condominiums. And by building code, they're like a multifamily type construction, sprinkler construction, 1 hour rating floors, 2 hour ratings between walls. But they're not, a townhome is a fee simple on a fee simple lot with, defined by all utilities served by that one lot, and it's structurally independent of the other units. So condominiums, there are different ways. Normally a condominium's a flat, but these are condominiums by ownership.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And one thing about condominiums, though, is that the HOA is required to maintain all the exteriors, all the insurance, all the landscaping, all the common elements is maintained by the HOA.
I just wanted to clarify, because we've talked condos, townhomes, townhome-style condos. I just want everybody to be clear that what we're doing is condos, even though they kind of look like townhomes.
Right.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion on this item?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion this evening to approve CLUP-24-03/MP-24-06/Z24-11/V-24-18, TPG, the Providence Group, Brookside Master Plan Pod B, as presented this evening with a change in conditions to reflect the site plan date on numbers 1, 7, 8, 10, 13, and 14. Those on the original all read November 8th, and that should be reading November 12th, so that's more of a typo.
I'll second that.
I think Councilman Brady might have had you by a hair. So we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Councilman Brady, and that was to approve the applicant as it was outlined in the motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of things that were said tonight. Michael made a good point that this is something we've been talking about for about 4 years, and 2 years, and COVID came, so everybody kind of backed off. We picked the discussion back up in '22. This is a focus. There's 2 areas in this city right now that really need addressing, and there are others we're working on, probably 3. Got the Windward Corridor. It's got changes coming. North Point Mall area's got changes coming, and this one drastically needed a stimulus of some sort. And Kathy had worked with other developers who came in, and they said, oh, yeah, we're going to help you out, and here's our 380 apartments. It's going to go over here, and no doubt some rental may need to go in there eventually, but they were leading with the rental. And this group, I remember the first meeting I was at,
I was waiting for the, hey, oh yeah, and by the way, we got the rentals over here. So it's not. As a matter of fact, as Councilman Dorito just pointed out in the packet here, that this is limited 10% rentals we do in a city for these sort of projects. I want to thank the applicant because this is a gutsy move, although we've seen them be very successful in the past. Some of our traditional builders around town, none of them were willing to take this on. So I think it is, and to your point, Councilman Dorito, an opportunity to turn a struggling office complex, but it's also got some other mixed uses. I mean, we've got a college campus in there, and they've got an opportunity for land that they own to double their size. And in our discussions with the folks from the education system said, you know, we want to wait and see what you're going to do before they decide to invest millions and millions of dollars. So I think that this is going to be a stimulus that really gives that area a big kick going forward, and I'm extremely happy that it's able to get this far. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Councilman Brady?
Just want to kind of resonate some of those same thoughts that Councilman Merkel just said, or Mayor Pro Tem Merkel just said. And it really is to compliment the city, the staff, and the applicant on how adaptive our city really is. And compliments to the city for kind of identifying an area that was starting to see some difficulty in vacancy in certain areas in the office community. And this area was identified. Then it was trying to put into an action plan what solutions would be there, and to kind of economic development kind of take over. Staff put together some great ideas that was out there, and thank you to the applicant for stepping forward for your investment again in Alpharetta, but also the quality of the design and everything you put together. It's not easy taking a site like that and taking it from a commercial use and adapting it into residential use. And then you look at all the complementing pieces in this area where you have some retail, some hospitality, you got some office, you got an educational kind of structure, you got parks and rec. This might be one of the greatest areas to come in the future of how these kind of initiatives go forward. So just so we'll just kind of add in those, so it's how compliments to everybody and how adaptive this is. So thank you.
Councilman Mitchell?
Yes, I'd just like to echo what my fellow council members have said, and add to the fact, this is why I'm so excited about the way we do things in Alpharetta. We see a problem, and we put it out there, and we come up with a study on what this area could be, and we invite the public to come and speak on that and to give us their input on it, and we followed through with all that. And tonight is kind of like the pinnacle, the beginning of what this area can really be. And the Providence Group, you've always been, you've been a part of our growth as a city. And I know it's been beneficial to you, but it's also been helpful to us in helping to design the Alpharetta that people know and love. And so this is another segment of that, and I look forward to how Brookside will continue to grow. I look forward to how Georgia State, hopefully they'll add more academic offerings because of the residential that we're adding there. And we know that from economic development standards, folks don't put offices in areas where their workers cannot live nearby. And so this is very much a part of that plan and us being proactive in creating it. So thank you again for being a part of that for us.
Any other comments? So I'd like to echo that as well. You know, I look back and there's AC, BC. There's before COVID and after COVID. And fortunately, for the last 10 years, the city has been working really strongly to create an environment that's attractive to businesses, to employees and employers, as well as residents. But a lot changed. You know, as we were talking about office vacancies, I remember we had one of the highest occupancy rates in metro Atlanta. The city of Alpharetta did. 20 million square feet of Class A office space, typically right around 90%, depending on the age of the product and the location and such. And so everything changed. Everything changed with COVID. And we started seeing many of the employers who were quite happy in all of these office parks. I've been in high res. I hate to see it going away. They had a fascinating studio where they created games, electronic games, and broadcast them all over the world. But that's not here anymore. And so, as Councilman Mitchell kind of hinted, and as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, we've been very intentional about looking at what Alpharetta has been, what our assets are, and where we want to be in the future. And we've had numerous opportunities from office parks that are lower in occupancy now than they used to be. And typically it's, as it was mentioned earlier, hey, we can plop down 300 apartments in this parking lot and it'll be fantastic. Well, you know, what we have learned, look at Avalon. That's not apartments in a parking lot. Look at all the other projects we've got underway right now. Employers have to have an environment that employees want to be in because they're competing with that community of employees. And if you don't give them a welcoming environment where they can walk to a meal and maybe have a little green space and a path or go jogging before or after work or something like that. So this has been very intentional. This is the first project that's been brought to us in Brookside that really fits what we think the model of some of these older traditional office parks can look like. So I'm excited for it, and I appreciate the Providence Group because we've seen your work in the city of Alpharetta, and I appreciate all the work our staff has put into not just this zoning, but this master plan. There's been a tremendous amount of thought put into this, and I think it's going to be great. If you haven't been to the 20-acre park in the Brookside Park, you missed something. It's a golden jewel down there, but nobody even knows it's there because nobody's there all the time. So I do support it. If there's no other comments, all those in favor, please vote yes.
Change your mind? It sounded. You had it back up on. There you go.
There we go. It does pass unanimously. Congratulations and thank you. The next item up on our agenda is MP-24-10/CU-24-14, Lava Island, Regency Park Master Plan, Pod 3. Mr. Woodman, once again, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item before you is a master plan amendment and conditional use to allow Lava Island to reuse a 40,000 square foot space in an existing shopping center in the North Point overlay. Lava Island is a family of entertainment venue with indoor play structures, trampolines, party rooms, and cafe. Master plan amendment is requested to add recreation facilities indoor as a conditional use in Regency Park Master Plan Pod 3. And a conditional use is requested to allow recreation facilities indoor for Lava Island. And I have the location map. This property is located at 7121 North Point Parkway. Property is zoned PSC, which is Planned Shopping Center. This shopping center is a one-story, 81,000 square foot strip shopping center. The Regency Park Master Plan was approved in 1992, and that master plan allows a mix of shopping center, entertainment, and office uses over 6 pods along North Point Parkway between Encore Parkway and Mansell Road. This is a little bit better aerial of the property. So this is the property right here. Ross Dress for Less is located in this building. I believe Mattress Firm might be located here. This space is the space that the applicant is requesting to reuse. That was previously used last for Bye Bye Baby. As I mentioned, Lava Island is a family entertainment venue. They do have food and beverage, but there would be no alcohol at this business. They have one existing location in Aurora, Colorado. And according to their website, they have 4 sites under construction. I believe the applicant would be here tonight and can talk about some of the other locations that they have under construction. Hours of operation for this business are Sunday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the applicant anticipates 35 to 45 employees. This is just a street view of that shopping center. And then here is the site plan, Encore, North Point Parkway. Again, 40,000 square foot space. The applicant is proposing no exterior changes to the building or to the site. And within this, this property for these buildings, the shopping center, as well as the Party City that's located here, there are a total of 513 existing parking spaces, all of which will remain. For the applicant's use, as well as the existing uses at this location, our code requires only 288 spaces. So this is just an example of one of those locations which is similar to most of North Point, where it's pretty overparked currently with surface parking. The applicant, again, is just reusing an existing space, so this proposal does not trigger any North Point open space or eco-district measures with this development. Of course, look to the review criteria for master plan amendment and conditional use. The master plan allows shopping center uses on the subject property, and we believe addition of an entertainment use will help with the reinvention of the North Point area. It's going to bring additional customers and add to the shopping experience. This proposed use would not have any adverse impact on the natural environment. They're just reusing an existing space, no impacts on the site or to trees. The proposal does meet the future land use plan designation of the property, which is mixed use. As you can see on the site plan, there are several points of access to this property as well. We do not believe that this use would have any negative impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety. Also, we do not believe by approving this use that it would impede any normal orderly development of surrounding properties, which are developed similarly with a variety of retail, restaurant, office, and entertainment uses. And we also noted that there are other entertainment uses in this North Point area currently: the AMC, Dave & Buster's, Studio Movie Grill. The mall has a couple entertainment spots located inside the mall, as well as Pickle and Social that was just recently approved for the North Point area. Applicant did provide a citizen participation report, indicated that they received no public comments, and the same occurred at the October 9th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments resulting from that meeting. And this item was considered by Planning Commission on November 7th. There were no public comments at that meeting. And Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval of the applicant's request to the 7 conditions as identified in the staff report in your packets. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Woodman? Well done, sir. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Boyd Henderson, 2149 South Holly Street, Denver, Colorado. We appreciate your time today, and we look forward to joining your community if you'd like us to come.
Do you have any questions for the applicant? Councilman Mitchell.
Give us a little idea of what our families can can expect. We have certain play areas, indoor play areas with laser tag kind of things and bowling, obviously, all that kind of stuff, ice skating. So what can they expect from Lava Island?
Sure. Thank you for asking. We've taken a little different approach than most of our other competitors. We've chosen to minimize the amount of flashing screens and electronics. We keep the lights on, and our target audience is really from about 3 to 4 up through 12 to 14, where a lot of our competitors are shooting for 8 to 25 or 35. So it's just a younger demographic that we're trying to pull into our business. We've got fully themed party rooms. I believe this will have 6 custom muralized party rooms for princesses and ice rooms and a myriad. But mostly what we want the kids to do is come see us, break a sweat, and go home tired. That's our objective.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if you'd like to come forward, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do we have any public comment cards in opposition?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if you'd like to speak in opposition, now's your chance to come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion this evening to approve MP-24-10-CU-24-14 Lava Island Regency Park Master Plan Pod 3 is presented this evening.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Councilman Will. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve as outlined by Mayor Pro Tem, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations and good luck. So the next item up on our agenda is the new business portion. So the first item under new business is the resolution to condemn Parcel 3 of pedestrian improvements for Roswell Street, Alpha Loop, parcel number 22-48231-269-0427. Ms. Eswine, would you read the resolution, please?
A resolution by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta authorizing the city attorney to exercise the city's powers of eminent domain to acquire certain interests in property situated in the city of Alpharetta, Georgia for public purposes, including public transportation purposes. Mayor and council, this is a condemnation of, and it's not in the resolution title, so I'll give it to you, parcel 22482312690427. Parcel owners are James and Edith Dwayne as it pertains to the Roswell Street and Alpha Loop project. And the just and adequate compensation in this case for the taking is $16,700. And we would ask that the resolution be approved so that we can move forward with this process.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eswine. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. I have a motion from council.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd offer a motion tonight to approve the resolution to condemn Parcel 3 of pedestrian improvements for Roswell Street, Alpha Loop, as presented tonight by Ms. Eswine.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Councilman Dorito. Mayor Pro Tem made the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. The next item under new business will be the invitation to bid. And that's 25-006, construction of Roswell Street pedestrian safety improvements. Director Sasevich, if you would.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the item associated with what you just passed a resolution on. And we went out to bid to do the Alpha Loop and the pedestrian improvements at Roswell Street, at Marietta Street. If you recall, right now, Roswell Street at Marietta Street is a temporary four-way stop. These improvements will convert it to a permanent four-way stop. There will be no left turn at all on Roswell Street onto Marietta Street in either direction. We'll also be eliminating majority of all the parallel parking spaces along that corridor as well to accommodate for the 5-foot beauty strip and the 12-foot wide Alpha Loop trail. They'll go along the east side of Roswell Street. The lighting along Roswell Street will also be the pedestrian lights that you see along the back side of Thompson Street, continuing with the theme that the community development has put through for Alpha Loop in the downtown area. So we received 8 bids from vendors. The low bid of $712,940.06 from Azimuth Contractors, and they have a 10-month schedule to complete the project.
Do we have any questions? Councilman Hypes.
Can you explain the no left turn part again? Which street are we on? Which directions are we going?
You're going north or south on Roswell Street. You could turn left onto Marietta Street. You could. Not today you can't because there's a stop sign sitting there right now, a temporary stop sign. So
currently you can turn left either.
There's not I should rephrase it. There's not a dedicated left turn lane. Oh. When you're done, you will be able to turn left. There won't be a left turn lane. My apologies. The left turn lane will go away, but you will be able to have a 4-way stop and you could turn in all 4 directions.
Okay.
My apologies.
My heart stopped for a minute. Sorry, you couldn't turn left from Roswell onto Marietta Street. And I thought I heard
Virgil over here was having a heart attack.
Well,
my apologies.
You wouldn't be the only one. So,
no,
thank you for the clarification.
Sorry about that.
Any other questions for Director Sasavage? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak about the project, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve the award of a contract for ITB 25-006 to Azimuth Contractors, LLC, for the construction of Roswell Street pedestrian safety improvements for an amount not to exceed $712,940.06, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion by Councilman Dorito. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Mitchell is the second. Any discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor of the motion to approve as outlined, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Next item up is the invitation to bid for 25-002 fiscal year 2025 pavement preservation.
So this is a pilot program we're looking into doing for the city, in the city roads. Pavement preservation is a rather new technique. I know many people do not like the most versatile means of pavement preservation, which is crack sealing, which is the spider webs up and down the roads. So we've been communicating with our neighbors up in Milton and other areas, other municipalities, and HA5 has been one of the most prevalent and more well-used and long-term benefits for pavement preservation on the city's roads. So what we're looking at doing is after about 3 to 5 years of resurfacing a road, you put this high mineral bond agent down. It basically seals the road, seals the cracks, prevents water from coming back in, and it lengthens the road structural capabilities for another 5 to 7 years. So instead of resurfacing a road in 15 years, 12 years what we've been seeing, you could jump that up to 17, 20 years, and it's far less expensive. We are gonna resurface approximately 2.25 miles for $106,000. Our last bid that went out was $160,000 per mile. So we went out, HA5 is the preferred method that we've been seeing around. Holbrook Asphalt is not the short abbreviation for HA5. They're two just pure coincidence. HA, Holbrook Asphalt, they're not, this is not the monopoly of it. They are the vendor of the Southeast for this. So their bid came in at $106,652.57. I would like to note that the cost that we got came in at $4.49 a square yard. Milton, when they did theirs, was $5. So we did beat them a little bit there. So,
Not that we're competitive or anything.
not at all.
Any questions for Director? Councilman Dorito?
Pete, thanks for the presentation. Could you reiterate what you just said about if we had to actually, remill the 2.5 miles, the total cost would be 160,000 times 2.5, right?
So, yeah, it's
Versus the 106 we're looking at.
correct. So
considering.
it's more than half.
Significant savings.
Significant savings.
For extending the life of a roadway for another, it says
About 7 years.
7 to 10 years in the
Now,
presentation.
The challenge with this is you're supposed to stay off the roadway for 24 hours. This vendor, part of their bid and part of the cost is they're going to have the golf carts. We have been coordinating extensively with HOAs to get this through. It is a pilot for us. If it goes well, we'll look at doing some more. So we're very positive and optimistic that this is going to work well for us, given who we've been working with in the HOAs.
Any other questions? Councilman Will?
Pete, I assume we're piloting this, but there's other examples of other cities that have already done it,
Correct.
that have shown that it actually does this extension.
Yes.
And how long are you giving this pilot before you're going to say this is a winner, let's keep rolling?
Well, the biggest one for us is going to be just how the coordination with individuals not be able to drive on the road for 24 hours in our subdivisions. We don't have as much land between the homes like they do in Milton, so that's going to be step one. It will take several years to determine if it has been a benefit.
So we're going to spend $106,000 and wait 3 more years?
And then we'll probably be closer to, 3 to 5 years. We'll be able to see. If it doesn't fade, I mean, I hate to say it, but one of the biggest requests I get for resurfacing a road is our subdivision road is no longer black. This will keep that color as well as prevent the water from penetrating into the surface course longer.
So if it actually works, we could cut your budget by like 30% for road repayment?
As soon as we catch up.
Had to throw it in, sorry. All right, thanks.
Councilman Mitchell?
Just curious, how do you plan on implementing the, you can't drive on the road for 24 hours? How's that going to work in a neighborhood?
The vendor has golf carts. They drop them off. People, they actually drive them to the people's houses. After about 12 hours, 15 hours, you will, it'll be a little tacky, but you can drive on it, but there's a warning associated that you will probably get the tack onto your tires, which then will go onto your driveway into your garage. So a lot of people, if you notice with the streets that we're on, they're short streets. We're not doing long, mile-long corridors, anything like that. They're all short subdivision streets, and they could park in other areas of the subdivision and then walk. We're not going to do this in the winter. It's going to be when the weather's nicer. But it's going to be challenging for us, but we're very optimistic with this vendor. They've done it all over the place.
Okay, so like in the event of an emergency, a vehicle could still get
yes, sir.
down there,
Yes,
a fire truck or whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
that will not, we will not prevent an emergency vehicle from accessing a road. We'll do what we have to do to treat it and keep it open.
Of course. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well done. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve the award of invitation to bid number 25-002 to Holbrook Asphalt LLC for an amount not to exceed $106,652.57 for the fiscal year 25 payment preservation project, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion by Councilman Dorito, a second by Councilman Will. Any discussion? I appreciate you exploring more efficient and more cost-effective ways of preserving our roads.
Thank you, sir. I'll pass it along to the team.
All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And that does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the next item, which is I Can Shine and City of Alpharetta 2025 I Can Bike Host Agreement. Director Rogers, I believe you have the floor on this one.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm here tonight seeking approval for the I Can Bike host agreement between the City of Alpharetta and I Can Shine for the program, for the I Can Bike program to be held June 23rd through the 27th of 2025 at the Union Hill Park. I Can Bike is a program where kids or folks that have disabilities can learn to ride a bike independently. It's a full week camp. It's been held at the Cooler here in Alpharetta and recently got moved to Union Hill 2 years ago. Up till now, the Public Safety Department has been the lead agency on this, and we have been assisting them. It has made sense under the current staffing for the Recreation Parks Department to take the lead on this particular program with the public safety folks assisting us to do that program. Obviously, I've spoken with Director Robinson about this, and he's in agreement with us moving forward. This program is a budgeted program already in our operating budget. We use the money that is programmed for us as well as the fees that the participants pay. It's a great program, and if we move forward, we would like to see as many volunteers come from the city as we can get. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have about that.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Rogers? Councilman Hypes.
Director Rogers, with respect to the pending motion, does the department need the initial $11,400 appropriated or the $19,400 appropriated?
Well, the
as part of the vote?
We need the $11,400 appropriated
with the vote.
Then, yeah, and then it is already, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure it's already in the operating budget. It's an annual cost, so that has already been approved, but this is approval of the contract for the following year.
Okay.
Any other questions for Director Rogers? Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak about the I Can Bike program, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, make a motion that council approve the city of Alpharetta entering into the I Can Shine Professional Services Agreement and to appropriate $11,400 and for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes, a second by Councilman Will. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So the last item under new business is the resolution for the amicus brief for Chang versus City of Milton appeal. Ms. Aswine, I'll turn this over to you for resolution reading and presentation.
A resolution of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, the city, authorizing participation in an amicus brief in the Chang v. City of Milton appeal. So, council members, this is simply a resolution to participate in an amicus brief that the case involving the City of Milton and an individual who lost his life in a vehicle crash by hitting a planter in the right-of-way. The case is being the City of Milton seeking appeal to the Supreme Court based on the lower court decisions, which could have far-reaching implications related to the maintenance of the right-of-way, and so to seek clarification regarding maintenance of the right-of-way and stationary objects in there, the resolution would authorize the city to participate basically in a filing that would be submitted to the Supreme Court, basically asking the court to take this issue up so that the Supreme Court of Georgia could clarify that. I will say that the resolution in your packet is missing the now therefore be it resolved language. I think on conversion of the document, it got lost, so I'm going to read that to you, but I have a tickle in my throat, so bear with me, please. I think I can do it. Maybe. I'm sorry, y'all. Now therefore be it resolved that the city does hereby authorize participation in an amicus brief before the Georgia Supreme Court, asking that Chang appellate ruling be taken by the Supreme Court and reversed. An amicus brief so tendered may include the city's name as a participating party. I'm so sorry.
I feel your pain. It's happened to me a few times up here as well. Please take a moment.
I don't think it's going to stop, but that's the
Mr.
presentation.
Lagerbloom, would you like to read it for?
I would be happy to. The now therefore be it resolved language says, now therefore be it resolved that the city does hereby authorize participation in the amicus brief for the Georgia Supreme Court, asking that the Chang appellate ruling be taken by the Supreme Court and reversed. An amicus brief so tendered may include the city's name as a participating party.
Thank you very much.
I will answer questions as I'm able.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Eswine? Do we have any questions? Well done. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item, now is your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion tonight to approve the resolution on the amicus brief for Chang versus City of Milton appeal as presented this evening.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Councilman Will. Any discussion? I'll just say that I do think it's important to have some clarity on that because it affects every municipality, and so it's in the best interest of all of our cities in Georgia to get some clarification from the Supreme Court of Georgia. That being said, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And that does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the new business portion of tonight's meeting. Next item up is public comment. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do, Mr. Mayor. The first speaker is Sean Eason, if you'd like to come forward.
My question is, the civilian, well, it's not a question. Civilians should be able to eat with no problem. Come on now. And what do you want from me if I don't, regarding homelessness out in the community, what do you want from me if I don't have a place to stay or no income? To be there for emotional support, okay, cool, what's your name? Things like that should be addressed regarding the community and homelessness to get people off the street.
Thanks, sir. Do we have any other public comments?
No, I was distracted by her choking, so sorry. We do not have any comment cards.
Seeing no other public comments coming forward, we'll close public comment portion. Do we have any reports?
We do have
Oh,
one
I'm sorry, please.
gentleman making his way down.
My apologies.
If you don't mind to just state your first and last name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tate Holcomb, 353 Lynn Circle, Alpharetta. I originally came here tonight to speak to something that has since been withdrawn, but I think what I want to say is very important. So I want to let everyone here know that it's not just me that thinks a lot of this. There's a large group of families that are concerned about some developments that have gone on in Alpharetta. And as the mayor said earlier, employees and employers are fighting for the best they can get in Alpharetta, and one of those things is childcare. Professional childcare in Alpharetta is highly competitive, like it is in most great cities. And there are only 25 daycares and preschools in the city of Alpharetta. And most of those have wait lists that are measured in years, not in months. In fact, my cousin, who just found out she's having a baby, just got on a wait list that will allow her daughter to go when she is 18 months old. And so as a father of a young daughter, I'd like to note to City Council that it is important to carefully consider any development anything that affects childcare, like putting a hotel next to a daycare center, and protecting and promoting the 25 daycares that we have here, because that is one of the main drivers that allows myself and my wife to work, is that we have a really, really good daycare system. We have great daycares here, and we should be doing everything we can to protect them. And any development that introduces risks to our kids must be carefully evaluated against the long-term impacts on the community. This is simply not about financial or economic gain. It's about ensuring that we have preserved the values that make Alpharetta great and that make Alpharetta family-friendly, and why we moved here from Washington, D.C., which is not a family-friendly city. And so I just urge thoughtful consideration of how any development that affects daycare and preschools affects the family and the community-centered growth that we have here. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. If there's anyone else here that would like to make a public comment, now's your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do we have any reports? Well, I'll have one report. We have a Christmas tree lighting coming up on Saturday, so it's one of our signature events, and it's usually one of the greatest events for the downtown area all year long, and we're excited about the weather forecast being clear, and I hope you'll be willing to join us. Other than that, I have no other reports at this time. Mr. Lagerbloom, do we require an executive session?
We don't.
So do we have a motion to adjourn before any more bad jokes?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a motion? Okay, I couldn't.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Mitchell, second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, please vote yes. And it is unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Gentlemen, I do have a couple of documents for you to sign. Mr. Montgomery?
I got 2 minutes. Oh, really? What, tomorrow morning?